When I think of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, I think, damn, this guy is one heck of an amazing talker on the microphone. Damn, this guy just oozes charisma. And he knows how to connect with the audience, and it just feels so natural that you just can't help but really like this guy and really love the work that he does inside the ring. He may not be the best technical wrestler by any stretch, but damn, that connection he has with the audience is something you really can't teach. And that video package that NXT does. And that video package that NXT delivered this week was really awesome. And that video package that NXT done this week was absolutely incredible. And I know that a lot of people in the NXT world, a lot of the talent has some sort of influence that they got from working with Dusty Rhodes. And Dusty Rhodes working with these guys was something that will not go unnoticed. And I think that Dusty has helped the newer generation a lot on NXT, working their craft and developing their craft. And Dusty Rhodes has a big influence on the NXT fans and the NXT talent. And I could tell that Dusty Rhodes has been working with those people and learning the ropes when it comes to promo work and wrestling and storyline development and character development, all the elements. And Dusty Rhodes is just one of those guys that knows exactly what he's doing when he's helping out these newer, fresh talent. So, thank you, Dusty. Thank you for the memories that you gave me over the years. And thank you, Dusty, for helping out the next generation on NXT, because NXT is one of the best shows that I really love to watch, and is the saving grace of the WWE. And Dusty Rhodes, I just have one thing to say to you. Thank you. Thank you for helping out the NXT fans. Thank you for helping out the NXT talent. And thank you for giving me everything that you have given me, and to a lot of fans that have known you since you arrived at the WWE and even before. Let the memories remain. Hello all NXT fans, and welcome to another review with me, Mike McRock, one half of the MRB Wrestling Review Show. And right now I'm going to give you a review for last night's episode of NXT, and this has to be probably the best NXT episode since I have seen since NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. No doubt, because I feel like that this show delivered some more enhancement when it comes to storytelling and developing characters, and they've done a lot more on this week's episode than they've done in previous episodes since TakeOver. And I like how every match or every segment didn't feel like the same thing that we saw last week, because last week we got a lot of enhancement matches. So I think NXT this week really needed to step up, and they really done just that. And we kicked out the show this week with Enzo and Kaz and Carmella taking on Blake, Murphy, and Bliss. And I like this match. This was a pretty good way to open up NXT this week. It was solid, it was fun, and entertaining. And you know when you're going to get Enzo and Kaz and Carmella in some way, shape, or form, you know you're going to be in for an entertaining match. And that's exactly what we got here. And it was a good way to open up the show, to get the crowd going. So kudos to that. And I like the finish as well because you have Enzo and Kaz and Carmella go over Blake, Murphy, and Bliss. And I like that because Blake, Murphy, and Bliss have been gaining a lot of momentum in recent weeks and have been dominant in this feud between the two of them. So this was a much needed win for Team Soft. And I like the little thing that happened in this match. It was around at the beginning where Blake and Murphy interrupted the SAWFT Soft part at the beginning. So that was a nice, little touch to gain a little bit of heel heat. But really, this was about Enzo and Kaz gaining the win here. Now the tide has turned, and the seeds have now been planted for whenever Enzo and Kaz get the next tag team title shot, heading in probably in the next 2-hour special event. And now we get into the second segment on NXT, and that was a look at Finn Balor. And this was a mini biography and a look at his personal life as well as his career. They showed his backstory and what his parents were like and all this stuff, etc., etc. And they had a look at his early career as a professional wrestler, traveling through England, Europe, and making his way through Japan. So this was a pretty good segment actually, and not only was this a look at Finn Balor and helping his character build up to the NXT title match on July 4th in Japan, but this was also a good way to sell Becky Lynch as well and her character and her development. So this was a good win-win situation for both people in this segment. Yes, this was mainly about Finn Balor and building this guy up as the next NXT champion or whatever, but this was also a really good way to show Becky Lynch this side of her and how she talked about if it wasn't for Finn Balor, she wouldn't be on NXT right now. So this was a really good way not only to sell Finn Balor but to sell Becky Lynch and the relationship between these two. I wouldn't mind seeing the two of them maybe in a mixed tag team match somewhere down the line, facing two opponents, a guy and a girl or whatever. But this was a really good way to incorporate Finn Balor because usually, when Finn Balor makes his grand entrance and when he wrestles, it's, all that personality kind of goes out of the way, because the entrance is something you know and understand more than you do when he wrestles inside the ring. But with this segment, I feel now that I know Finn Balor more than I ever did ever since he first came on the scene. So this was a really good video package on the part of NXT this week. And now we get into the NXT women's match this week, and that was Charlotte going one-on-one with Cassie, and this was a basic enhancement match where Charlotte goes over. But even though this was Charlotte and all about Charlotte, it looked like Cassie knew what she was doing in the ring, and she got somewhat a bit of a shine in this match, pulling out a couple of maneuvers here and there, and she knew how to sell Charlotte's moves as well. So it looked like Cassie knew what she was doing in the ring, and I hope to see her in the near future as an NXT diva. But this was really mainly about Charlotte going over in this match. And then I like what NXT done here. Immediately after the match, they go to a backstage segment where Dana Brooke is being interviewed, and even though it came off as a scripted type of promo where she was looking at line for line from a script, this was a little bit of a better promo from Dana Brooke, and she almost acted a little babyface-ish when she started talking about Charlotte's family and how she used her family to get to the top, and some of us have to work our way up. It was just a a little an inch of an extra layer of Dana Brooke's character. But overall, I feel like Dana Brooke is starting to improve on the microphone, even though she's still a little bit green. But I think it's time now we get to see Dana Brooke in the ring, because I feel like she's doing more backstage segments and more powerlifting things that she has been doing traveling around the world than she is competing in the wrestling ring. So hopefully somewhere down the line we get to see Dana Brooke in the ring where she belongs. And this is also a good way for NXT to develop this storyline between Charlotte and Dana Brooke. And I think somewhere down the line eventually these two are going to go one-on-one, and I think Charlotte will do the honors and put Dana Brooke over in hopefully a good, solid alpha female type of clash style of a match, because that would be really cool to see. And now we get into the main event on NXT, and that was Kevin Owens versus Samoa Joe in a non-title match. Now, going into this match, I was really worried about what NXT is going to do in terms of the finish, because I feel like if Kevin Owens lost even now, even 2 weeks before his title match against Finn Balor in Japan on July 4th, it wouldn't make sense for him to even lose any matches from here on out, even if it was a match between a Samoa Joe for that matter. And even Samoa Joe, in a perspective of him as well, I feel like if Samoa Joe lost his big first marquee match like this one, this would derail his momentum way too early, and it just wouldn't make sense whatsoever. So I was really worried and concerned about what NXT is going to do with the finish of the match. I wasn't worried about what they were going to do with the match, because I feel like these two could actually put on a good match, and they done just that. This was a good, solid match between two big guys just going at it, and you don't need a lot in terms of the story. You just know that these are just two big guys, and one of them is about honor and respect, and the other is about no honor and no respect. So you have these elements come into play with this story, and I like how they got personal at the end. This was a good, solid match. They really didn't need to do too much, and I like that they didn't do too much. It was one of those things where they done just enough without going overboard. And like I said, I was worried about the end. What did they do here? The matches completely went out, disqualification. The two of them ended up having a really cool, awesome brawl at the end. Even though you could telegraph it and say, okay, Samoa Joe's going to attack here, and Kevin Owens is going to attack here. Oh, and Kevin Owens is going to attack one of the guys that was holding him back with an elbow or whatever. This was really good and really effective, and it was a good way to close off NXT this week. I like how this feud is now becoming somewhat personal here between these two, and I feel like I'm more invested in this story, in this match, in this whenever they're going to do their next big match than I am with Kevin Owens and Finn Balor heading into their title match. So this is a feud that I'm really excited about, and it's just one of those things where they teased this segment into maybe doing something bigger down the road. I hope that happens, and I hope it's for the NXT Championship, because I don't think Finn Balor should win the NXT Championship heading into that July 4th show in Japan. I feel like Kevin Owens needs to retain the title in order for this story between him and Samoa Joe to play out at the next 2-hour special for the NXT Championship. That is what I want to see. I don't know if NXT is going to do that. I feel like what NXT might do is to have Finn Balor defeat Kevin Owens for the NXT Championship at that show on July 4th, and have Samoa Joe write off Kevin Owens on NXT. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it's for the title. So with that being said, like I said, this was a really good way to close off a really good episode of NXT where everything felt different. We got that backstory from Finn Balor and Becky Lynch. We got a good opener where the fans were already in cheers. And we got the good segment to end off the show. So overall, I really have no major issues with this episode of NXT. So I'm going to say this show delivered 8.5 points out of 10. And if you saw NXT this week, what did you think about it? Feel free to leave those comments in the comment section below. And you can also hit that subscribe button down below this video to become an MRBer on this wrestling review show.